Hello, Miss Terry's here. Today we got a video on solving quadratic equations using the square root property. Let's make that math easy. So first of all, we have to make sure that we have a quadratic equation. Remember, a quadratic equation will have an x squared term in it, and also we need to look for the equal sign so that we know that it is an equation. We're going to use some algebra skills so that we isolate whatever is squared, and we're going to get that on the left side. Then what we're going to do is take the square root of each side, because a square root will actually undo a squared term. It's pretty neat how it works. We also have to remember that when we find our answers, we have to account for the positive and the negative of it. For example, square root of 25 is actually two answers. It's positive 5 and negative 5. Don't forget that a negative times a negative equals a positive. So both of those will give you 25. So square root of 25, positive and negative 5. Okay, let's see how this works. Let's try some examples. All right, first example we got here is 2x squared is equal to 162. We have to isolate the x squared part. I need to get just the x squared by itself. So you can already see that we have a 2 that needs to move. Using algebra skills, this is going to be division. Divide by 2 on both sides. Makes that gone, and I have x squared is equal to 81. Then we're going to use that concept of taking the square root of a squared, because if you take the square root of a square, and we're going to do that on both sides, it actually cancels out the squared. So now I'm left with positive and negative square root of 81. And that is at one of our perfect squares. So my final answer is x is equal to positive 9 and x is equal to negative 9. Okay, I have to isolate my x squared term. So I have a positive 7 that needs to move to the other side. Opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. Those cancel out, so have x squared is equal to negative 1. I then want to take my square root of each side so that I can cancel those out. But can we get a square root of a negative number? No, cannot happen. This cannot happen. So actually, this answer is no solution. Okay, I need to isolate my x squared. So I've got 2 steps I have to do before I get the x squared by itself. First step, I'm going to subtract the 9. So I have 10x squared is equal to 490. Second step, divide by 10. Those cancel, and I have that x squared is equal to 49. I'm now ready to apply that square root property, and that will leave me with x is equal to positive and negative square root of 49. That is one of our perfect squares. So we have our answer as being x is equal to positive and negative 7. Okay, in this problem, the squared is already isolated. All we have to do is isolate what is squared. This whole part right here, x minus 4, is squared. Think of this as being x squared. So it's already ready to do. All we have to do is apply the square root method, and we get positive and negative square root of 16. I'm going to break that up into two different parts. Positive square root of 16 is positive 4. And then if we take the negative, we have negative 4. I still have not solved for x yet. So I have to make sure that I solve for x on both sides. That is gone. So I have x is equal to 8. If I add 4 to both sides on this side, I have that x is equal to 0. And you can put those together if you like with a comma. That's fine. So x is equal to 0 and 8. Okay, another example. We do have our binomial here for the x squared, but we've got this plus 4 that needs to move over there first. So I'm going to leave the squared part and subtract my 4. So I now have 22. This is still squared. We use the square root property. So I have positive and negative square root of 22. I don't have x by itself, so I need to move some things around. The first thing that I see that I can move is minus 2 on both sides. So I have 6x is equal to positive and negative square root of 22 minus 2. Then we have to get rid of that 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And I have x is equal to positive square root of 22 minus 2 over 6. And it's also equal to negative 22 minus 2 over 6. Now there is a little bit of simplification that is allowed to happen in this one. We can simplify the negative 2 over 6. Treat that like a fraction. So we have negative 22 over 6 minus 1/3. And then we have the negative square root of 22 over 6 minus the 1/3. So that is solving quadratics by square root method. First, make sure that you get the part of the equation that is square by itself on the left. Square both sides, square root both sides, solve for your x, and then don't forget the plus and the minus of both sides. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to hit subscribe to hear about some new ways to make math easy. You can also follow me on Twitter at Math with David, and if you would like some online live tutoring, you can always contact me at tntcenter.com. Thanks, guys.